Welcome to a new Daily Top Askreddit video. Today's topic. What fact is common knowledge to people who work in your field, but almost unknown to the rest of the population? An elevator will go up to the top of the hoist instead of crash to the floor in most catastrophic failures due to the counterweights. I don't know if that makes my elevator anxiety better or worse. It all depends on whether there is a masked villain soaring at the rope holding the counterweights. Coffee shops spend more on milk than coffee. Edit, this comment thread went nuts. Anyway, here's some of my latte art just because https://imga.com/hg5hvaz. I remember someone telling me once that Starbucks isn't in the coffee business, it's in the milk business. Most people are not good at detecting lies, and consistently score no better than chance, 50/50ths, when tested. The score goes up slightly when it's someone they know that they're talking to, but not much. Ironically, most people rate themselves as very good at detecting lies, but they're wrong. To add to this, experienced detectives are no better at telling who is lying and who is telling the truth than rookie police officers. The only difference is that they believe they are better. Right. I also remember reading that among law enforcement the only ones who scored above chance were Secret Service officers due to some of their special training in reading nonverbal language in strangers. Even they were only around 70%, though. When someone says they are great at telling who is lying, I just assume that they annoy the hell out of people with their constant accusations. A corporate policy of requiring users to change their passwords every 90 days does not make your system more secure. It tends to actually make things less secure. I've been trying to run this up the chain where I work, but they are so set in their ways and because corporate says so. Okay, I don't want to hear you guys bitching when someone picks up the sticky notes around the office/shop with people's usernames and passwords written on them and fucks everything up. And then you have the ones where it can't be anything related to the previous passwords you've used. I fucking hate it. At my work the passwords aren't even allowed to have characters repeat twice or more in a row. If I tried to do hello and then some random numbers, it would allow it because of the double L's in hello. Absolute stupidity. Same with most password complexity requirements. If you force a 12+ character password that cannot be dictionary defined, your users are writing it down on a post-it note. The problem with passwords is actually the name. If it was called a passphrase and you had rules like it's 5 random words you could assign them to people, they'd be easy to memorize and virtually uncrackable by computers. But you say password and people don't even think of making a sentence. There is a surprising amount of infrastructure under your feet. You'd be surprised how much public utility runs underneath private property. Always call before you dig. We had a garden in our backyard growing up. I used to dig in the spots where my mom didn't have any plants growing. I decided one morning that I was going to dig to China. I was young, okay. And kept going until I hit a thick black cord. I stabbed at it with the shovel, and saw all sorts of colors inside it. I thought I'd found some treasure, but what I was actually looking at was dozens of individual wires inside the cord, and what I'd done was take out the cable TV for the entire street. Edit, this happened in like 1985. That's why there was static on the TV, and there was no fiber involved. If it was full of colored wires, it was probably a telephone cable, and yeah, cutting through that would be a major disruption to your neighbors. There is no difference between a violin and a fiddle other than how you play it. A violin has strings, but a fiddle has strags. The joke I heard in college from a girl who plays the fiddle was, violins are tuned to C and fiddles are tuned to B#. A friend of mine played in the Manhattan String Quartet and he calls every string instrument from a violin to an upright bass a fiddle. I think he does it mainly to annoy the other musicians if they don't play folk music. That is definitely to annoy the other musicians. Mayo. In some museums, what you see on the shelves can be less than 10% of the whole collection. For example, the Louvre has over 460,000 items in their collection, and only has space to display about 35,000 of those, roughly 7.6% of their total collection. Due to limited physical space, and for aesthetic purposes, most items in museums stay back in storage and /or archives. Plus, most items need to be maintained at certain temperatures and light. If we can't meet those needs, it will never be allowed for public viewing, ever. There are most likely some of the most amazing, visually stunning pieces of artwork that you or anyone will never get to see. Bonus, accession and deaccession can also be a touchy area. Just because it's old, doesn't mean we're going to take it and add it to the collections, and we try to be nice to people who are disappointed we won't take their precious family heirlooms. Other times, it's easier just to say, yeah, we don't want that. Edited, for correct percentage of the Louvre's collection, it's lower than I thought. Edited again, for those who were asking, I have a BA in art history, and a master's in museum studies. I presently work as a digital preservation librarian in the archives and special collections of a university, and have worked in numerous museums/universities all over the world. It's been quite a fulfilling job. I've handled artwork from Michelangelo, Rembrandt, Warhol, Pollock, Picasso, and many more. Ask away, and I'll answer if I can. My local art museum lets you rent out a bunch of the artwork that isn't currently being displayed. It's great because it's like $25/year or something like that for legit piece of artwork, and if I decide I don't like it or it doesn't fit in with my new place, I can just take it back or grab different one. Edit, since so many people are asking, it's the Weismer Art Museum on the University of Minnesota campus. That seems like a logistical insurance nightmare. But, I'm actually very interested to see how that works. Heartworms are treatable for dogs, but not for cats. Also, keep on top of your heartworm prevention for your dog. If they get heartworm but you can prove that they've been continually covered, which isn't difficult, the receipts are good enough, and your vet will have them in their database, then the heartworm prevention manufacturer will pay for the treatment. Man, I love that you all love your pets. I'll just add to this, your indoor cat, or dog, can get heartworms. Mosquitoes can come inside. Till heartworms come from mosquitoes. That if your IT guy is not busy, he is doing a good job, not a bad one, and you don't need to fire them. A friend of mine went to bat for me on this many years ago. I was sole IT guy at a smallish company. Apparently one day, while in a meeting, happened to spy me playing Quake 3 and made a comment along the lines of, what the hell do we actually pay him for? My friend thankfully asked, is your email working? Can you access the internet? Are all our servers up? That's what we pay him for. Your IT guy is like your security guard. You want him to be bored. I literally quit a job because they accused me of being lazy after I had put in up to 80-hour weeks for a year and finally got things under control, so just didn't have much to do after that. It's a lose/lose situation unless people know better. If everything is working fine, they don't understand why they need you. If everything is going to hell, they question why they're paying you in the first place. That's just the job. You try to keep the fires from starting, but it's inevitable that one will start eventually. Touching your fresh tattoo with your unwashed fingers is bad. It's absurd how many times we have to tell this to people. It's so logical. Like, if you were just stabbed with a knife, you wouldn't rub your dirty fingers all over the wound, so why would it be okay when you were just stabbed hundreds or thousands of times with a needle over a wide area? Edit, let me clarify, I do understand the need to press hard on an open stab wound to stanch the bleeding or prevent internal organs from spilling out, and also that it may be important / necessary to plug the hole with a finger or two to slow the bleeding until one reaches the hospital. Nevertheless, it is still infinitely preferable to administer this kind of first aid with sterile bandages and / or with sterile gloves covering your dirty fingers. In short, whether there are hundreds of tiny puncture wounds or just one big one, you shouldn't rub dirty fingers / hands over that part of your skin if at all possible. Like, if you were just stabbed with a knife, you wouldn't rub your dirty fingers all over the wound. Yeah, number. People definitely would. Edit, it's simultaneously sad and funny that my most upvoted comment ever is basically people are really stupid. Virtually every piece of copper, aluminum, or steel you come across has been chopped to bits, refined, melted down and used to make whatever object it's a part of. Dozens, if not hundreds of times. Copper pipe probably started out as hundreds of different wires from various devices from around the world at one point. Gold and silver have been recycled much more than that. Because gold from multiple sources is routinely melted together, it is entirely possible that gold inside your wedding ring was the object of 1,000 murders. It is quite possible that some of your gold witnessed the burning of Troy, Carthage, and Tenochtitlan. Gold is the physical essence of human greed and malice. That's what is so great about it. Man, I'd love to read a story about a chunk of gold that's cursed, and it going through generations and spreading, and all the effects. That's really cool. You should see the process firsthand. Google metal foundries, very fascinating stuff. I'm on the scrap/chopping side of things, which isn't as exciting but still cool. The toner in your printer is plastic being melted onto the paper. To add to this, an inkjet printer microboils the ink in the print head before transferring it to the page, bubbling just barely. I had no idea about this until last year.